any kind of experience with gaming, then you know there's palm sweat. So this is built with palm sweat and tears. My name is Paul Dietrich, and this is actually my first year as an academic coach at Fairview Middle School. I'm in Gonzales Unified School District over on the west coast of the U.S. And my very, very first Saturday Sparks. I'm very, very excited. So today, I'm going to be talking about really kind of how we took our esports idea and kind of made it into a club, and a little bit of a glimpse of what that looks like from the ground up. So let's go ahead and get started. So the very first thing that I actually wanted to go over was, it's like this big question is like, why esports in the first place? For a lot of people, inside and outside of education, it's esports just seems to be like a place to play a lot of games, and that's true, but there's a lot more aspects to that. The very first thing that I want to get into is kind of the comparison of esports to your traditional sports. This is actually a really, really cool infographic that I saw, and the title is, how the esports industry fares against traditional sports. So on this site, which is actually, it's from Visual Capitalist, published by Katie Jones, they have this really, really cool infographic that really compares esports to your traditional sports, looking at viewership and also at revenue, and how much money this thing is actually bringing in terms of not just revenue, but viewership. So the very first thing that I want to bring down and show you here is the reach of esports. So right now, in terms of like global viewership, now the sources are, according to this infographic, are from like Goldman Sachs, Variety, and Fortune. And so right now, it looks like in terms of global viewership, Formula One racing is at the very top with 490 million viewers. Coming in at second is esports with 194 million viewers. Esports has been around for a long, long time. And if you can follow, the third one coming up there is the Super Bowl with 98,200,000 viewers. Of course, Super Bowl being more for North American type viewer. But if we scroll down a little bit more in terms of viewers, League of Legends, which is a game, had 58 million viewers compared to the NFL, which had 124 million, but it's beating out Major League Baseball, the NBA, and hockey. Let me go down to here is, okay, this is the one slide I'm going to stop at right here on this infographic, was in terms of the revenue, and this is as of about 2017. The NFL was the biggest one leading the pack here with about $14 billion in revenue. Esports at the end, at 2017, was bringing in about 655 million. Estimated 2021 was about a $1.65 billion revenue. At this point in time, esports is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and then there's several sources that I've actually seen that says by the year 2030, we're probably looking at esports exceeding over 10 billion as an industry. So it's out there. So the biggest thing now that we're trying to think is, if this is out there, how does esports impact education? And I kind of got this main idea from my wife, Deanna Dietrich, who's in attendance now. She's actually this is her first year as principal at La Gloria Elementary School, the school that she actually attended as a student. But it's this idea of a path to college, which she brought in with her third graders. And esports is really that path to college. Believe it or not, a lot of schools now, more and more are starting the middle school level, actually even in elementary. It's hitting really, really hard in high school. And the reason why it's so big is because there are colleges now that are scouting for esports players so that you can get a scholarship to go to college playing a game, which is insane, which is what I would have loved when I was going to school. And so EGF, which is the Electronic Gaming Federation, it's an organization that we've joined, our school has joined to participate in tournaments and whatnot. They've said, and it's actually one of the slides that they have, but there's currently about over 180 educational institutions that actually have esports in some form or another. There's a ton of colleges, universities that actually have esports as as a varsity game, as a varsity sport for them. So Esports is not just like a recreational sport for a lot of these organizations. It is actually, they are student athletes, and they are participating at high levels of competition, like division one level competition at esports. Oh, it's awesome, Georgina, using that co-curricular for K-12. So with all that in mind, big question is, how do I start something at my school? Like I said, if I don't have anything, well, I'd like to say we like to start with the 4 Ps. The first thing is we need to start with people. We need to have kids and adults interested, and that's not hard. That's an easy part. The second thing that we need is a place. And we stayed for a long time just in my classroom. Bare bones basics. We didn't have anything. So we have a people, we have a place, we have peripherals. We needed peripherals. So one of my co-directors, we call him a co-director, but he's helping me to lead esports at the club at our school. He had a Nintendo Switch, so he brought that in, and that's what we were playing in my classroom for essentially like the longest time, all of last year. We had essentially like 2 controllers, unless the kids had some controllers at home that they brought in. We basically had a small group of kids, and they would just share the controller. So we had the people, myself and my partner. We had a place, which is the classroom. We had a Switch that he brought in, so that was free for the time being. And then finally, well, I say finally, but actually really it's kind of maybe should be at the top of the list, is you need permission. Just make sure it's a good and a go ahead there. Okay, so this was our setup. This was my classroom. And again, this is my first year as academic coach. So this is bringing back a lot of memories here. So in my classroom, this was all set up. We had start off with a very, very small group of kids. The little, I don't know if you can see it in front of the student who's in the middle there. The Switch is right in front. We didn't have a TV in there, so the Switch is it's just plugged into our projector, and we just played on the wall. And we didn't actually have any competitions at the time with any outside schools. It was literally just us bringing in a Switch. Kids were coming in sometimes like during lunch or after school, and we just wanted to play some games. In this case, we were playing Super Smash Brothers. So that was our setup. We actually spent this time when we were working with with EGF, playing against other schools. We actually ended up being #1 in our region that first year that we started off. So we were super excited, and all this happening literally from just a classroom and a single Switch, really without any TVs at the time. And so that just goes to show that anyone at any level, doesn't matter where you're starting, can make this happen for your kids. So the question is now, how do we take that, going from the very, very basics, like, okay, I have the kids, I have the adults, I have the classroom. How can I step this up? And so one of the things that you can do, which is free, which is what we did, is if there's a central point that everyone can meet in, we decided to get a little bit of a bigger room. We had an old computer lab, which wasn't being used anymore. It's actually used as our storage room. So you can kind of see all the robes in the background. They store chocolates there, sometimes for the kids to sell. But it was a storage room. And so one of the things that we started doing, we just kind of like started upgrading our facilities a little bit, which was, by what I mean by upgrade, we walked 50 feet to a slightly bigger room. But the reason why we actually chose this room, if you have a computer lab, that's ideal, because if you can see, there's a bunch of these little wall sockets, electrical sockets. And so that was a really good prime place, because if we did want to have a place to upgrade facilities, add computers, this was the place that was it, because it was already wired and good to go. Internet, everything was good to go. The other thing that we started doing, which is also free, is we started using Canva to make posters for our kids. We use that to get some advertisements out on our school website, on our school Facebook posts, and that's all free. And just a really quick blurb about Canva is, if you are, I think it's for educators, or the innovators in here can help me out here. But if you're an educator, and I know if schools, whole districts can do this, you can get Canva for free for your school district, and I believe it's the premium. So if you're like me, I've dabbled in Photoshop a little bit here and there, but I'm not an artist by any means. So I was like, how do I get something that looks really, really great for kids? And actually, kids will actually have access to Canva too. Oh yeah, perfect, Georgine. Yeah, Adobe Education. Awesome. Yeah, and actually, we have to start exploring that one too. But it's something like, how do we get something that's like professional looking, out there for the kids, that actually even something that the kids can do, um, in terms of advertising and marketing. So Canva is great for that, because if I go to the website, if I log in, and I just type in esports, and actually all these places have esports already set up. It's insane about how many resources are out there specifically for this topic. And I just search up esports, look at all these pre-made templates ready to go. All you have to do is edit the text, add a couple pictures, but it's there. Um, our kids can set this up. If you're as the leader of the club, you can set it up, but it is all good to go. So that's what we started doing with, kind of our announcements, and we went as far as just announcing our games. And even me, to the point of taking my cell phone while we were competing and just going on Facebook Live and just putting it out there to kind of show like, hey, this is what our kids are doing. This is what we're doing at our school. So this is all the free stuff. So the question now is, in our last 6 minutes, is how we go from here, which is another view from our computer lab slash storage room, and convert it into what we have it now, which is, we got the chairs in there, we've got the computers in there, we've got keyboards, there's computer screens in there. It's a little bit harder to see. I don't know if it's right over here, near the computer screens. There's these really nice rockers that go in there too. It's like, how do we get to this point? Coffee. Multiple factors actually come into this point. We were actually really, really fortunate in terms of the computer side of things. Just the computers, that all started actually at our high school. We had an amazing computer science teacher at our high school. His name is Jacob Jun. And actually, he was, I think in the first year, he's one of the first year Amazon engineer teachers of the year. I think he's one of the first 10 that actually came out. So he's an amazing, amazing educator and colleague. And he got different grants, I think, set up. So the computers were already at the high school. Our high school actually at the time had an esports team. The idea, kind of going back as a path to college, would be that our Fairview, our middle school students, would kind of get used to the gaming idea, get used to collaboration, teamwork, good sportsmanship, and they would be the main candidates as a feeder into the official high school teams that could then get scholarships to college. So we got the computers from them, but everything else we actually had to find ways to pay for. So if we want to get into all of the fun, how do we get into the really fun stuff? Well, you need funding to get that. And so we have an amazing person at the district level, Candace Camacho. She's our director of student services, who also works a lot with our this part actually coming up is the key. She works a lot with career and technical education, so CTE. And so we're looking at funding from CTE to help fund an esports initiative. But then the question becomes, how does CTE link to esports? How does that link to playing games? Well, as it turns out, esports is a lot more than just gaming. There's a lot more opportunities that sprout out from esports because of that. So we're looking at job opportunities that come from esports and skills, technical skills that you can use in the real world. So the organization that we're currently signed up with is the Electronic Gaming Federation. They're at egf.gg. And they actually have internships for student participants. They have a broadcast program so that kids really learn how to become casters for games. just kind of like how you would have casters for the NFL or mixed martial arts or anything like that. The next organization that actually we're looking into is the North American Scholastic Esports Federation, NASEF. And they actually have, and I think it's free to sign up with them, but I believe they actually have curriculum that's aligned to like CTE, social and emotional learning, and ELA standards. And they're actually making classes so that students can learn ELA, for example, through the lens of esports. But that image that I have on the screen is like, it's like this big thing. That's like, this is the main thing and how it ties into CTE. Because when kids get into esports, they have access to not only become like strategists, so they can become coaches and analysts, but then they can look into the different variation or different factors that go into esports, which is how do you manage a team? It's IT support, it's event organization. You get into like web development for your team or your school. You get into marketing, business development, and then even for a content creation piece, you get into art and streaming and shoutcasting and journalism, and all that is career oriented. And again, that's the North American Scholastic Esports Federation. And so here's kind of where we are in the last 60 seconds. Here's where we are in what's next for us. We have an amazing room that's kind of set up, but it's kind of like, okay, now that we have these, what's coming up next? And what are the obstacles that we're actually currently facing? The big one that we're facing is now that we actually have over 60 kids, probably more like around 70, that are interested, and there's only like 24 chairs in there. We need to come up with a weekly schedule. So we're trying to figure out what does lunchtime look like for the kids that have to take the bus home, or what does the after school things looks like. We have grade behavior check and behavior consent forms, permission slips. That also has to get done. And then finally, a balance. We want to make sure that's an even split between boys and girls, because I had some girls come up to me and said, we don't really want to go in there because it's just filled with boys all the time. So it's managing that schedule so that there's an equal amount, so that it's balanced, everyone feels welcome, and it's an equal opportunity for everyone in there. So that is it in terms of our close. And I wanted to go back and just kind of summarize with that power of one. To get started from the ground up, all you need is one adult, one Nintendo Switch or whatever peripheral you'd like, one small group of kids, and one classroom, and you're going to open up an infinite amount of possibilities for yourself. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. And thank you so much for coming to this presentation.
Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for everyone that came in. It was great to see everyone too. Yeah, it was great to see Tom and Avid. Avid isn't there. Thank you, Georgina, for coming in. Thank you, Deanna, for coming in.